You're still healing, but you can be free now. What if the one thing you've been waiting to finish is the exact thing that's ready to set you free? Let that sink in. You don't have to be fully healed to be fully alive. That's not just an idea, it's a rupture. A break from everything you've been told, from the silent rules we've absorbed, that only the healed deserve happiness, that only the peaceful are ready for love, that only the whole are allowed to move forward. But who decided that? Who said your soul had to be spotless before you could breathe again? Here's a different truth, one you might have felt in your chest but never dared to claim. Freedom isn't what comes after healing. It's what makes healing possible. And right now, you're still healing, still feeling that ache when you wake up, still navigating memories that press against your ribs at night, still figuring out how to stay open in a world that taught you to close. And yet you're already free, not in theory, not someday, not when it's all behind you, now in this mess, in this version of you that's still holding both light and shadow. That's the paradox no one tells you. Freedom and pain can breathe in the same room. They can sit at the same table. They can exist inside the same heartbeat. The Matrix trained us to wait, to hustle for healing, to earn our worth. But spiritual awakening doesn't ask for your perfection. It asks for your permission. The permission to live before everything is wrapped up in a bow. The permission to feel peace, even when your story still carries tension. The permission to be without performing wholeness. And maybe your unfinished healing isn't a sign that you're behind. Maybe it's the exact doorway you've been circling, waiting for the courage to step through. The wound is not where you're broken. It's where the light wants to come in. So here we are. Not to fix you, not to push you, but to remember together that healing is not a delay. It's a passage, and you are already walking through it. In the next part, we'll explore the subtle and often invisible pressure to be fully healed. The way it hides beneath your self-discipline, wears the mask of humility, and tricks your nervous system into believing you're not enough. Yet, let's go there. The invisible pressure to be fully healed. There's a kind of silence that lives beneath your healing journey. It doesn't scream, it doesn't demand, it whispers. And that whisper sounds like, you're not there yet. You should be further along. You'll feel worthy once it's all done. Oh, but what if the most powerful truth was hiding where you never thought to look? What if healing was never supposed to be a finish line, but a space you live in, breathe through, and evolve with? We've been conditioned to treat wholeness as a reward, something you earn once you've checked enough boxes, cleared enough shadows, forgiven enough people, rewritten enough memories. But deep down, that model isn't healing, it's performance. Let me explain. When emotional self-abandonment wears the mask of spiritual discipline, we don't call it what it is, we call it commitment. We tell ourselves we're being strong, consistent, devoted. But underneath, we're operating from a belief that who we are now isn't enough, that we must earn rest, earn softness, earn the right to just be. And guilt loves to hide here. You've seen it before, you just didn't know how to read it. That quiet ache behind, I still have so much to work on. The hesitation to celebrate because I'm not completely there yet. The need to over-explain your triggers or downplay your progress. Here's the process. You internalize the idea that healing equals value, that more healing means more worth, that unless you've done the work, your light doesn't fully count. And in doing so, you unknowingly vibrate guilt, even as you try to vibrate love. Bruce Lipton's research reveals that our biology, even our gene expression, responds not just to environment, but to belief. When the belief under your healing is, I'm still not whole, your nervous system keeps scanning for danger. Your cells stay on alert. Your energy field echoes lack, even if your words say otherwise. Pause for a moment. Let that land. Where have you mistaken progress for penance? Where have you told yourself that feeling joy was irresponsible because you haven't fixed it all yet? The pressure to be fully healed isn't healing. It's an energetic cage, and it's one that many wear proudly, unknowingly. Because it looks spiritual, it sounds humble, but it feels like chronic self-delay. Let's go even deeper. In the next part, we'll explore how this belief that you must fix yourself before you're safe isn't just a pressure, it's a strategy, one rooted not in love, but in control. And we'll see how healing, when driven by fear, can actually become a subtle form of manipulation toward the future we're trying to protect ourselves from. Why fixing yourself can be a form of control. It sounds noble, this desire to heal, to evolve, to do the inner work. And for many, it begins with genuine intention. But somewhere along the way, something shifts, quietly, subtly, without announcement. Healing becomes a performance. You show up not because you're in flow, but because you're afraid of what might happen if you don't. You meditate, journal, clear your energy, not to connect but to protect. You start trying to outsmart life, to manage uncertainty, to control the future. But what if healing, when fueled by fear, becomes the very thing that traps you? Let me give you an example. A woman in her 40s, we'll call her Dana, had just gone through the end of a long relationship. The breakup wasn't explosive, just silent. Years of slowly growing apart. She felt numb, confused. So she dove into healing, books, workshops, affirmations, Reiki, astrology, anything that could explain why it happened or how to make sure it never happened again. At first it felt empowering, purposeful, but soon her healing became a shield. She began analyzing every emotion, every conversation. She pulled cards before every decision. She stopped trusting her own intuition unless it was confirmed by signs. She told herself she was doing the work, but underneath, she was just scared. Scared to be hurt again. Scared to trust again. Scared to live freely without guarantees. You've probably seen this. Maybe you've even lived it. Here's the hidden pattern. When healing is driven by fear, it becomes control dressed as growth. It becomes a contract you sign with the universe that says, if I do everything right, you won't let this happen again. But healing doesn't work like that. The quantum field, as Joe Dispenza teaches, doesn't respond to neediness. It responds to coherence. That means the energy you emit matters more than the rituals you perform. And if your energy says, I'm fixing myself so I'll finally be safe, then what the field hears is, I'm still unsafe, I'm still unworthy, I still don't trust. Let that settle, because this is the moment where something can shift. You don't need to fix yourself to be protected. You don't need to perfect your vibration to deserve peace. You don't need to control everything to be okay. Pause now. Breathe. Feel your body. What part of your healing might be driven by the belief that if you just do enough, life won't surprise you again? Let that part soften. Because true freedom begins not when you've mastered every emotion, but when you stop using healing as a way to bargain with the future. And now, let's spiral deeper. In the next chapter, we'll break the illusion that healing is linear. We'll explore how true growth happens in spirals and why revisiting old wounds doesn't mean you're failing. It might mean you're finally ready to see them from a higher place. Healing is a spiral, not a staircase. You've probably asked yourself at some point, why is this coming up again? The emotion you thought was gone, the pattern you thought you broke, the part of you that felt so done, suddenly rising again, like it never left. And maybe you felt frustrated, ashamed, defeated, like all your work meant nothing. But what if you were never going backward? What if you were just moving in a sacred spiral, one that returns not to punish you, but to invite you into a deeper layer of understanding? We've been taught to measure healing like a staircase. One step, then the next. Higher, straighter, cleaner, as if growth were vertical, logical, linear. But that's not how souls evolve. That's not how real transformation unfolds. The soul doesn't climb, it circles. It loops around old pain with new perception. It meets the same wound with new light. It speaks to the same ache from a different voice inside you, and in doing so, it reveals the deeper intelligence of healing. Repetition isn't regression, it's reinforcement. Let me give you an image. Think of the rings of a tree. From the outside, it looks the same. Rough bark, strong trunk. But inside, each circle holds a story. A storm survived, a season of drought, a year of stillness. Each return carves something new into the center. Your healing is like that. Edgar Cayce once said that souls reincarnate not to reach finish lines, but to complete vibrational cycles, not to perfect themselves, but to re-experience energies with deeper awareness. And maybe this lifetime is your spiral back to something that began long before you were born. And yet, this doesn't need to feel mystical or far away. Look at your life now. The conversation that triggered you last week. The habit that crept in again. The relationship that echoes an older one. These aren't failures, they are invitations. You're not who you were the last time you stood in this emotional space. Now, you come with more breath, more boundaries, more truth. Pause. Feel that in your chest. The moment you stop shaming the spiral and start trusting it is the moment you stop measuring your growth by how fast you leave the pain and start honoring how deeply you can stay present with it. Let me say it clearly. You're not falling behind. You're spiraling inward. You're going deeper, not lower. And the deeper you go, the more you start to realize that the healing never ends. But neither does the beauty, the wisdom, the access to parts of you that only rise when the spiral calls you back. Let's bring this even closer. We'll meet the hidden force that often traps the most sensitive souls, the pursuit of spiritual perfection. We'll look at how waiting to be ready can become the most convincing form of avoidance, and how your soul is ready to expand, even if your mind is still negotiating. The trap of spiritual perfectionism. There's a hidden tension that many carry in silence, a tension between knowing they're meant for more and believing they're not ready yet. It whispers gently, wait just a little longer. Do a bit more work. You're not aligned enough yet. At first, it feels like discernment, like self-respect, but often beneath that softness is something else entirely, a deep-rooted fear of being seen, chosen, loved, while still unfinished. Spiritual perfectionism doesn't shout. It waits. It watches. It carefully calibrates your worth to your progress. And in doing so, it convinces you that now is never quite enough, that you are almost ready, but not quite, almost worthy, but not yet. But here's the rupture. Your soul doesn't wait. It expands. It moves through the cracks. It rises in chaos. It learns by experience, not by preparation. And every time you postpone your life in the name of being more healed, more evolved, more ready, you strengthen the belief that something in you still needs permission to exist. Let me offer a different truth. You don't need to be fearless to move forward. You don't need to have all the answers to speak your truth. You don't need to be perfectly whole to begin again. You only need to stop outsourcing your right to live. Not someday, not when it's all clean, but now, as you are. Pause for a moment. Where have you been waiting for some internal green light to tell you it's safe to begin? What part of you still believes that your freedom must be earned? Feel this. You are already enough for the life you've been longing to live. And if you've made it this far into the journey with us, thank you, truly. It means you're not just watching, you're remembering, you're resonating, you're reclaiming. Take a moment. If this message spoke to something inside you, to share in the comments. Have you ever caught yourself waiting to feel ready before stepping into life? Your story, your honesty might help someone else break that same cycle. And if you feel this space calling you deeper, join our circle. Subscribe to this channel, not just to stay connected, but to walk this path with others who are also remembering that they don't have to be perfect to be powerful. Now let's go even further. I'll guide you through a 3-step process that can help you feel free now, not when everything is resolved, but exactly in the space where you are. This isn't about pretending pain doesn't exist. It's about living through it, with presence, with permission, and with peace. A 3-step practice to feel free now. Sometimes, the most radical thing you can do on your healing journey is to stop waiting for it to be over. To stop holding your breath until all the shadows clear. To stop delaying life in the name of wholeness. Because real freedom doesn't arrive when everything is fixed. It begins the moment you stop asking your pain for permission. Here's a process you can return to anytime you feel stuck in the loop of almost there. Step 1. Name what's still hurting, without shame. There's a difference between identifying a wound and becoming it. This first step is about bringing awareness without self-judgment. It's not about reactivating the pain. It's about disarming the silence around it. Speak it, feel it, but don't wear it. Here's how that might sound inside you. I'm still grieving that version of me I had to let go. There's a part of me that still believes I'm hard to love. I'm still holding on to the fear of being abandoned again. Notice. No apology. No rush to fix. Just presence. Step 2. Choose one space in your life where you'll stop waiting. You don't need to overhaul everything. You just need to give freedom a doorway. Choose one area, maybe your creativity, your voice, your joy, your body, and give yourself permission to experience it now without tying it to a timeline. Even if your heart is still tender, even if your past still echoes, you're allowed to feel the sun before the storm has fully passed. Let me give you an image. Picture a house mid-renovation. Dusty floors. Half-painted walls, but in the corner, one room is lit by a soft lamp, a window cracked open, music playing low. Life is still happening, right there. In that space that's ready enough. That room lives inside you. You don't have to wait for the rest to be perfect. Step 3. Practice coexisting frequencies. You can be healing and happy, grieving and grateful, terrified and willing, in the same breath. Your nervous system can hold more than one truth at once. And the moment you stop trying to choose which one is more spiritual, you start embodying the full spectrum of your humanity. Here's what this looks like in your daily life. You laugh at something beautiful while a part of you still aches. You take a deep breath during an argument, not to avoid it, but to stay present. You feel love while still feeling unsure. And it all belongs, because freedom isn't the absence of conflict. It's the presence of permission to be exactly who and where you are without delay. So pause here. Feel into what this practice unlocks in you. Maybe there's a door opening. Maybe it's just a crack. That's enough. And now, let's turn towards something that might be leaking your energy, quietly, daily, without you even noticing. In the next part, we'll uncover how revisiting old wounds, without shifting the narrative, can trap you in identity loops. We'll explore a powerful approach to closing vibrational chapters, even when life hasn't offered closure yet. The loop of revisiting old wounds. There's a kind of ache that doesn't scream. It revisits quietly, late at night, in the stillness of a morning routine, a memory, a phrase, a gesture that echoes something unresolved. And without realizing it, you go back, not just emotionally, energetically, back to a version of yourself that still doesn't know how the story ends. But what if the most persistent pain in your life is the one you keep reactivating without even knowing? Let me explain. When you revisit an old wound, not from a new place of awareness, but from the same emotional state you had when it happened, you're not just remembering, you're reliving. You're re-entering the same vibrational loop, and your nervous system doesn't know the difference between the past and the present. This is why certain emotions feel stuck, why certain relationships haunt you long after they've ended, why certain fears return even when your life has changed, because energetically you're still keeping the chapter open, still scanning the past for answers, still hoping to rewrite what was. But healing doesn't come from rereading the same page. It comes from choosing a different lens. Pause for a moment. Where in your life have you been keeping a memory alive, and not for reflection but for identity? Because here's the truth, sometimes we hold on to pain because it gives us shape. It tells us who we are. It explains our triggers, it justifies our boundaries, and without it we fear becoming undefined, unanchored, invisible. But your soul was never meant to live as a reaction. You are not the character created by your past. You are the consciousness observing it. You are the one who can choose to carry the wisdom without the wound. Here's the process. When a memory resurfaces, don't suppress it, but don't bow to it either. Acknowledge it. Witness how far you've come since that moment. Speak to the version of you who lived it, not as a victim, but as a guide. Say to that self, you're not stuck there anymore, you made it through. Feel that shift. The story no longer owns you. You are now the storyteller. And for those wounds that never received closure, remember this: closure doesn't always come from the other person. It comes from your choice to stop bleeding for a lesson that's already been learned. Now let's take this even deeper. We'll explore a powerful emotional truth. Sometimes freedom isn't found in letting go, but in letting be. We'll look at how releasing the need to resolve everything can bring you the very peace you've been trying to force. Letting be instead of letting go. We've been told over and over, you just need to let it go. Let go of the past, let go of the person, let go of the pain. But what if letting go isn't always the path to freedom? What if the very act of trying to let go is keeping you entangled? There's a hidden violence in forcing resolution, a subtle rejection of what still aches, a spiritual bypass dressed as self-liberation. Because sometimes what's asking for healing isn't asking to be removed. It's asking to be seen, held, allowed. You don't need to amputate every part of you that still hurts. You don't need to delete the memory to prove you've grown. You don't need to be empty to be free. Freedom isn't found in the absence of emotion. It's found in the spaciousness around it, the breath you bring to it, the way you stop fighting the feeling and start listening to it. Deixe-me dar exemplo. You may carry an old heartbreak, one that never quite resolved. It shows up in strange places, a smell, a sound, a dream. You've tried to let it go 100 times, and yet it lingers. But here's the shift. What if you stop trying to cut the cord and simply let it rest in your awareness? Let it be a part of your story without being the author of your future. Let it soften. Without needing to disappear, pause. Breathe into that space now, the one that still holds on, and feel how much lighter it becomes when you're not demanding it to vanish. Letting be is not passive, it's powerful. It means you no longer abandon yourself for the sake of appearing healed. It means you're willing to walk with the unhealed parts of you, not as burdens, but as teachers. This is where freedom lives, not in perfection, not in control, but in presence, in acceptance, in peace with the unresolved. The moment you allow what is the moment it stops controlling you. And now, we move toward the closing of this spiral, the final integration, the full remembrance. In the last part of our journey, I'll speak to your essence, not your wounds. I'll remind you of the truth that's been pulsing beneath every word. You are not broken. You are the field where healing happens. And you've always been free. You were always free. Beneath every ache, behind every memory, below the surface of every silent fear. There's something in you that has never been wounded. It's not your body, not your mind, not even your emotions. It's your essence, your field, your eternal aliveness. And that part of you, the part that was never damaged, is the space where healing begins. You were never broken. You were never behind. You were never too late, too much, or not enough. You are the awareness watching it all. You are the space between the thoughts. You are the presence underneath the pain. You've spent years trying to get free, trying to clear the past, rewrite the story, earn the peace. But what if freedom isn't earned? It's remembered. What you seek is already within the one who's seeking. Every breath you take in full presence is freedom. Every time you choose softness instead of shame is freedom. Every time you say, I'm still healing, but I'm still showing up, that is freedom. So let's land this together. Thank you for your presence, your breath, your listening. Thank you for walking this path with us, not as a perfect being, but as a remembering one. It means something that you stayed. It means something that you cared enough to go deep. If this message stirred something inside you, share it in the comments. What did this awaken in you? What truth did you feel rising to the surface? Your story, your words, your resonance, they matter. They're part of a field that is expanding beyond just this video. And if you're not already part of this circle, subscribe. Not just to follow along, but to stand with us. To be held in a space where growth doesn't require performance, where your humanity is sacred and your presence is the gift. Watch the next video. Let it take you further. There's more to remember. There's more to reclaim. There's more of you waiting to be met, because healing isn't the end of the road. It's the path that leads you back to yourself. And as you go, you are not at the mercy of the outer world. You are the field that transforms what vibrates around you. You don't need to fight what you feel, only learn how to decode it. Your emotions are vibrational keys. Your energy is a language, and the universe listens. If you felt the call, join us. This is just the beginning.